this is crazy. I don't know if I should say this, but Eli, there's so much money. There's people, they're like, they were early at OpenAI or they were early at Meta. There's a lot of them and they have too much. It's ridiculous. And sometimes they will say, I just don't know how to deploy it in a way that's maximal. And I'm like, sir, it's in your bank account right now doing zilch.
You're able to let loose in a different way now that you're a nonprofit. I can feel that it's different.
Yeah. I mean, I probably should let loose a little less.
No. Come back on Decoder. Maybe have a couple drinks next time.
The PR people aren't in the room, unfortunately, so we'll see what they thought about this one.
Hello and welcome to Decoder. I'm Eli Patel, editor-in-chief of The Verge, and Decoder is my show about big ideas and other problems. Today I'm talking with Hank Green, a longtime friend of Decoder and the co-founder and now former owner of Complexly, an online education company he started with his brother John in 2012. I say former owner because Hank and John have just converted Complexly into a nonprofit and given up their ownership of the company in the process. That is some of the purest Decoder bait that ever was, because it's all about how you structure a company and how you make decisions about changing that structure. So, of course, I asked Hank to come on the show and talk all about it. But in addition to being pure Decoder bait, the story of Complexly is also about media and how any of us can look at the internet and video landscape of 2026 and try to do something meaningful and ethical with it, while still growing an audience and making enough money to survive. I know I'm always saying you're going to like the episodes, but I promise you are going to really like this episode. Okay, Hank Green, former owner of Complexly. Here we go. Hank Green, you are the often guest host of Decoder. I think you've hosted the show more often than I have recently. You are the co-founder, the former owner of Complexly. You're a TikTok superstar. You're a science communicator. You're everything. Welcome back to Decoder.
Hello. It's always great to be here. I'm a big fan of your show.
One time you were the guest.
Yeah, I have been the guest before, but it was a while ago.
Long ago, you were the guest. Recently, you've mostly just been the host of the show. Some of our most popular episodes.
I mean, you guys did a great job of getting people on with me. Your staff is fantastic at giving me good questions to ask, and then I just try and charm my way through it.
It is plug and play. Almost anyone can do it, which is not a compliment for you. No, I'm excited to talk to you. I'm excited to have you as a guest. It was wonderful having you as a guest host while I was out on leave. It was fun to listen to my own show as a listener for once. It's a very unusual feeling, but I am thrilled to have you as a guest because you have done some of the most Decoder bait stuff in history to talk about, which is perfect.
I'm so excited. I was just on another podcast and it was like 100% just like talking about memes and stuff. And I was like, can we talk about business, please?
Oh no, I got to delete the meme section. All right. So you and your brother, John, founded this company Complexly, which I actually wonder, I want to start at the beginning. People know you, they know John, they know the shows you make, they know your TikTok channel, they know you as internet personalities, people who make things, creators. Do you think they know Complexly? Is that foregrounded? It's the company that runs all this stuff.
Not as much as I certainly would like them to. So usually people know the shows. Like they know Hank and John. And then in addition to that, they know the shows. So there are shows that we make that have a lot, like big audience that we are not involved in. We don't host. But the fact that there's like a thing sitting underneath all of it, I think is a little bit mysterious and also in a way almost anachronistic. Like that's not how media works anymore. And but there is, and I want people to know about it. And I think that honestly, like that's starting to change. But yeah, it's over 70 people, and we make a lot of different shows. So I think it's like, to some extent, it's like, SciShow or, Eons or, Crash Course, or, Ask Hank Anything, but you might not, and you might know John Green, you might know Hank Green, but you probably don't know Complexly. So really part of my job right now is just to say the word Complexly a lot. So let's do that.
This is what I mean about the Decoder bait. So you have a company. You've had one for quite some time. It has operated
over 12
all these things.
years. Yeah, 15 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that company had a structure. I'm going to ask you about how you make decisions. This is going to be great. You recently changed the ownership structure of that company. So you and John founded it. You owned 100% of it. Notably, you didn't take any investment. I think there was a YouTube grant somewhere along the way.
There was an early YouTube grant, yeah.
In that period where YouTube was like, does anyone want to make videos? Here's some money.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that program is considered a failure internally. But I think that it was extremely successful if you only look at the money they gave to YouTubers. If you look at the money that they gave to like media companies, it was a very bad investment. But if you only look at like Rhett and Link and Phil DeFranco and the Fine brothers and Hank and John, there's just like it turns out there was a lot of good stuff came out of that.
I'm curious about that too. I agree with you, by the way. And Vox Media receives some of that money. So it goes. But I agree with you that it kickstarted the creator economy in a very specific way, particularly on YouTube. Complexly was your company. Was started with some of that, but that was just a grant. They didn't have any ownership. It was just you and John owned the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And now you've turned the company into nonprofit. That's just a big organizational style switch, ownership structure switch. Talk about that for 1 second. What does it mean to be a nonprofit now?
There's a big piece of this that is incentive fee. You know, I ultimately, like everything in business is incentive-y. And there's always been a bunch of like doors open to us that feel very business. You know, we got to turn this into a freemium product. We got to create a subscription service. We should go over the top. We like all these different ways that you have, like if you have, which one of the things that Complexly has is a educational video brand that is used in pretty much every school district in America. I would say probably every school district, probably close to every school. We have a really great relationship with teachers. Teachers love us. Students love us. Administrators don't know that we exist because we don't have to sell ourselves to anybody because it's free. And it's and people watch because they want to learn, even if they're not inside of school. So we have this thing that we could easily leverage. This is why if you had a normal company, you would turn this into some kind of freemium model, or you would be positioning yourself to sell to an ed tech company, et cetera. Like that's what you would normally do. We keep not doing that. And I think that honestly, it's like held us back from developing some projects because we don't want to do things that would lead us too quickly or too aggressively into a sort of business shaped direction. And so because one of the, tenets has always been like the videos should be free for everyone forever. That's what we keep saying to people. That's what we say to the staff internally. And so this is like really a project that is about impact, which means two things. Like one, you got to you're adding value if you're reaching more people. And so anything that constricts the number of people you reach is decreasing your impact. And then and then like how much good are you doing with the content? How much value is the content itself delivering? And I think that all of our shows are doing that work. And we want to keep them all open. We want to continue to compete in the online video space. We don't want to lock ourselves up or lock teachers into using us, because then it's like, oh, we did it. We created the moat, and we can, invest less in the content, and it can be cheaper to make. And which is, you see this happen in educational media companies. And so that's all stuff that we don't think is a good idea. And so we're like, well, we need to actually, if we're going to lead it this way, long term, it can't just be like Hank and John say so. We have to create an incentive structure that's actually what's the incentive structure that leads you to always be maximizing the impact rather than the revenue. And that's really a story that's more about, how do you, if our job is now to sell ourselves to our crowdfunding or grants or family foundations or big granting organizations, what are we going to be selling? We're not going to be selling, we're not going to be trying to lock people in. We're trying to the people we're accountable to now are our audience, and they're people who would like us to deliver value to our audience.
I think about that a lot because fundamentally what we're talking about here is YouTube, right? Like the YouTube ecosystem is where Complexly is mostly organized and centered. There are other platforms. They all have big audiences in different ways. But, if you're going to get value out of one of the videos that we're talking about, you need to watch the whole thing on YouTube, not 15 pirated clips on TikTok with the vertical lines putting them through. Yeah. I'm very curious about that whole economy. But what we're really talking about here is YouTube, right? And YouTube is just under a lot of pressure all the time in a lot of different ways. And it sounds to me like what you're saying is we should find other ways to make YouTube videos that aren't so commercial. Because everyone else on YouTube runs into the requirements of being that commercial, and it, as you're saying, the incentives then start to warp the business, and that's where you get freemium, and that's where you get this other stuff from.
Yeah, and I think also it's not hard to make good money if you have a YouTube channel that is reaching a lot of people, as long as you're not spending a lot of money on the videos. And, I know that. Like, I have my own personal channel that's just me, and like I can make enough money to fund my life with that. But if I wanted to like be like making educational content that was right all the time, if I needed that infrastructure, and if I wanted it to be like classroom quality, it's just impossible. There's just not a way to do that and like have brand deals in the middle of it. You can't do that if you're making educational videos for classrooms, and you can't like cut every corner. You have to have them be scripted. Like mostly what people are looking at is like, how do you do low budget, long form content? How do you spend less time making stuff that's longer? And that's like podcasts. It's like,
here we are.
Here we are. And that's not really what we want to do. So there's like a business model problem there. And then the other is like the attention competition world. And like, we want to compete in that space, but there's different areas of that. And so we would like people to be using our content because they know that it's good, in addition to it being something that grabs your attention. And thus we don't have to be like, what if the aliens made the pyramids, and then use that as like the leverage into teaching you about Egypt? No, it's like, that's not the world we want to be existing in.
Let me ask you about that kind of altogether. Every time you've come on the show, you and I have talked about how to make money in media and how to support good work in media. And that's been a real theme of our conversations, regardless of who is interviewing who. Which, again, you're the only guest where it has been the other way around. Yeah. I look at YouTube and I hear you say, you can't make educational content here at the quality you need to for the classroom, and certainly not without doing brand deals. And to me, this just feels like the biggest indictment of this platform possible. Right. Here's one of the richest companies in the world. They're going to spend another $1 trillion on data centers to build AI systems, right? Like, they have so much money.
Some of those are my dollars.
Right? Yeah. They have so much money, and they've extracted it all from advertising, from other creators. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tell this joke all the time that every YouTuber gets their wings and realizes that they run a business when they get demonetized for the first time, or they make the video about how mad they are at YouTube. Have you ever had a conversation with YouTube where you're like, hey, you should at least pay more per view for the good educational content? Or has it always just been, look, you're just like everyone else, regardless of what business you want to be in?
We've gotten some of those things, and they have done that. They've stopped. But for a long time, they did do stuff like that. They were like, we want educational content for this age range, and we want, we recognize that it's very... So in particular, like 8 to 12 is a real no man's land in terms of being able to fund content. With younger than that, there's more granting organizations that want to fund it, and there's like PBS stuff, and then with like older than that, the kids are making their own decisions and they're watching Mr. Beast. But that middle area, there's not a lot to do there, which I think is an interesting problem to try and solve. And so YouTube did that for a while. They, our show, SciShow Kids, was created through them giving us some money. I'm like the most biased person you can talk to about YouTube, because like I've had a really productive relationship with them over the years. They've responded when I've criticized them about things. This has stopped a little bit. Honestly, like, I criticized them about sort of not telling us, not really saying out loud that they're training AI with our content, but doing it. And basically saying like, this is a competitive advantage. We can just like pop into our license that now we can do this, and everybody's going to agree with the license, because it's not like they're going to stop uploading on YouTube. We're going to say, not only are we going to use this, we have permission to use this. And unlike all these other companies that trained on a bunch of non-consensual data, we trained on consensual data. And by consensual, it's like we put it in the license, and then everybody agreed to it because they had no choice. And nobody even knew that was happening. And I made a thing, and basically radio silence. And so I think that in particular, this period, it's just it feels so ruthless, and everybody is having to, in terms of these big tech companies fighting to be the one who create the digital god. It felt like, there's kind of a reason why I maybe didn't hear back about that. But I've had a pretty productive relationship. And honestly, I've always imagined myself to be running a business. And the reality is that YouTube shares a heck of a lot more revenue with me than most platforms. We get 55% of the ad revenue from our videos. And then like I'm out here on Instagram and they're like, how are we going to build the slot machine today? We're going to change it every 2 weeks. You're never going to know how much money you make. Sometimes you're going to make a ton. Sometimes you're not going to make a lot. It's going to be a real sort of randomized reward situation that's going to make you feel like you're like playing a game that's very exciting. And then one day the money will just stop. And now you figure it out. And I think YouTube would probably have structured itself like that if it had figured that out sooner. Like I think a lot of people think of the 55% cut as a huge blunder on their part, that they set this system up and they can't change it. Like, you know, like I think there would be a true creator revolt if they decided that they were going to alter the way that money is split. Though they did alter it for shorts.
Yeah.
They were like, well, it's a different piece of content and it has a different economy. And so we're going to take a bigger cut. When I think of like the indictment of YouTube, I think less about the creator economy, if only because they do at least do better than everyone else. They lie less. They seem to care more. They seem to have like some internal systems that are actually about surfacing creator concerns and having true advocates internally. I think that is less than it once was, just as, you know, like all power structures in tech that can sort of hold tech accountable have weakened over the last 5 years, and that seems to be accelerating. But the thing that in all of this I think is much more indictable is like when we outsourced all of our decision making to content recommendation algorithms. That was a lot more power than we thought we were ceding, and that's a really tricky thing to do well. I think that YouTube did it badly for a long time. It does it better now, but it's still, you know. There's lots of YouTube's like, I've identified that you enjoy rocket ships. Have you tried transphobia? Kind of situation going on. But better than it was when Shorts first launched. I mean, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. But I think in the future, we will look back on this era with the most critical lens of is that everyone in society gave away their choice to select what content they watched, and they. You know, on YouTube, you still do make that decision. It decides what to show you, you know, and like people like me are deciding how much clickbait we want to use, how many tools we want to use to entice you to attract you to our content. But on TikTok and Shorts and Reels, we've given up all decision making, and we like it. We prefer that, and I think that we will look back on that as a pretty cringy activity. But I don't know how long. Will it be 50 years? Will it be 20? Will it be 100? I don't know.
There are product design lawsuits occurring right now about those platforms that suggest maybe it will be less than 1 year.
Are you talking about like the like infinite feeds being manipulative or something like that?
Yeah, to overcome the content moderation First Amendment concerns, the lawsuits are product design concerns. That's a whole different episode. We can do that one some other time because I'm fascinated how you feel about that as a creator. The reason I asked about YouTube and business and rates to start with is when you mentioned the incentives of running the business and what the incentives would lead you to gain more profit tomorrow than you do today, right? You mentioned things like freemium models and selling to an ed tech company and building your moats and reducing the cost of your videos, which is stuff that rapacious capitalistic media companies do. But those are the things that they do.
Really glad we didn't have an investor pushing us
right?
to do all this.
Yeah, that's what your investors would push you to do. Yeah. That all happens if you're not making enough money from the biggest pot, right? And like YouTube
you do it no matter what. Why would you? If I was making 20 times more money from YouTube, and I had investors behind me, they'd still want me to make 40 times more money, you know?
Fair enough. The only reason I'm asking that is because I see how that works. You mentioned Instagram. I see how that works for the TikTokers and for the Instagrammers, right? Where the platform is paying them no money and they've turned themselves into QVC. Like straightforwardly, that's how those economies work.
Yeah. I mean, so like really what we're looking at is like, okay, well, what about the way TV worked? And do you think that, and like the question is, did TV create higher value content? And the answer is yes. It created content that like more people spent more money on, made more money making. There were more people involved in the creation. There was a more robust economy, and now there is less. And what we're looking at there is a little bit of, if you take away the gatekeepers, if you say anybody can create, everybody will, and they don't need as much money because they just want to make things, and they just want to get attention, and they just want like to feel like important in society. And I watch this. It's much more intense on TikTok, where people come in and they're like, all I want is to be heard. And that worked for 6 months. And then they're like, but I also need to pay rent. And there's a lot of parts of being heard that actually suck, especially if you're not a white man. You're starting to get a lot of negative consequences to the stuff to posting and putting your face out there. And then you're like, well, I'd like something in exchange for all of this, and you're trying to figure that out, and then the two sort of paths that occur is either you figure out a way to make it work by diversifying across platforms and creating like productizing, et cetera. Making a podcast is a big one, and then or you burn out, and somebody, and you know who replaces you? Anybody. Yeah. Because they all, like, for 6 months, they're just like, oh my God, somebody's listening to me. They're laughing at my jokes. They're paying attention. I'm like, now I'm the person who, like, I was watching, and they were like, everybody wants it. But what these platforms have realized is that you could just have them last for 6 months and then burn through them.
There was a time when YouTube would talk about like creator burnout, and that has all since receded. I have this concept that there are things that we are required to ignore to like participate in the information economy. And one of them is that the reality of the media business is we are competing against an army of teenagers who will work for free on Instagram. Yeah. And every conversation I have with media people, we are required to ignore the overabundance of supply that Instagram has to replace all of us at the drop of a hat. Like, no one has any leverage against these platforms because of the army of teenagers who will work for free. And if you mention it, then all that's left is nihilism. Like, you have to ignore it so that people can pretend that they have like agency in their lives.
I think that you and I are trying to figure out what the business model looks like. It's reflective of the think about how newspapers did this. There was a time when making a newspaper was extremely cheap. You could give them away for less than the cost of print because of advertising. Suddenly there was all this distribution, yellow journalism, everybody fighting for attention with the most sensational headlines and following, murders and so we're doing that. That's where we're at right now in online media. And then eventually, something happened. And by 1980, the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times had editorial standards and a huge moat, and they worked really hard to get things right all the time so that you could trust them, unlike those crappy newspapers. And that's just what's happening. And so you and I are saying Vox. Yeah. Vox is a brand. The Verge is a brand. And you can trust us in a different way than you trust some guy on TikTok. And when I'm 20, I don't get that. But when I'm 30, I do. And when I'm 20, I don't have money. And when I'm 30, I do. And when I'm 20, I'm not subscribing to anything. I'm just watching whatever comes across my feed. And when I'm 30, I type in theverge.com, the last website on earth.
That we're going to change the domain name. It's getting much longer. that's our new rebrand.
The last website.
Earth.com. There's two .coms embedded in it. It's bold. We're going to do a Super Bowl ad to get people to pay attention to it. Yeah, the reason I'm starting here instead of tell me about the paperwork to be a nonprofit. We've chosen different paths. I try to keep us off the platforms. I think the dynamics of the platforms warp us, and that's why we have a website, and we've talked about that at length. And we have a subscription now because I think people paying us directly, it just keeps us away from the influence of algorithms in a way. And it sounds like, in watching your announcement video and reading your tweets and some of the coverage of going to be a nonprofit, that being a nonprofit for you is in some way insulation from what an investor would have you do to make more money on these platforms in that way. Right, because if you want all the videos to be free, they have to exist on those platforms. Because free and no one watching them is not useful. Free and everyone watching them is useful.
Because the only thing that we want is the base level thing that we want is you don't have impact without reach.
Yeah, and the platforms offer you reach, and then there's just a series of incentives that the algorithms create that make people do bad things. And being a nonprofit provides you some insulation from those things.
Yes, I think so. I think that a thing that I'm moving over to being a board member rather than an owner. And I think that a big thing that board will be constructed for is to make sure that we don't let the incentives go too far in the other way, where like reach doesn't matter anymore as long as we're making content that feels really good to make. I think that's a thing that you got to be careful about. So we want to structure it so that when we're talking about our impact reports, we're looking at whether we're growing our impact, whether we're actually reaching more people. And then I don't know if I should say this, but Eli, there's so much money. It kind of infuriates me. That like, for like every year that Crash Course has existed, we've been scraping by. And that's because we create way more value than we capture. Like we could easily have been a company that was extremely profitable and that like is, potentially taking on Pearson. And maybe that would have been the thing that would have had a better, bigger impact on the world if we had like actually taken on these existing educational media companies and like hired an army of salespeople and tried to do the thing. That's not for me. So that's part of it. That's not for me. That was never going to be me. But if what we're talking about is impact, and like we're good at that, and like we're good at making videos that make people curious, that capture people's attention, that get them oriented on a thing that's going to like provide them value in the short and long term, then we should like, I don't know, just give us money to do it. I don't like we'll make the YouTube money that every other YouTuber makes. And I'm saying this to other educational creators too. I want them to hear this as well. Somebody should be giving you money. There should be patronage. It's the year 2026. Income inequality, not income inequality, wealth inequality is like Gilded Age level crap going on. There's people, they're like, they were early at OpenAI or they were early at Meta. There's a lot of them and they have too much. It's ridiculous. And sometimes they will say to me, I just don't know how to deploy it in a way that's maximal. And I'm like, sir, it's in your bank account right now doing zilch. So I feel like just let me figure it out for you. And that's a little bit how I feel. I'm like, YouTube has created a pretty healthy economic ecosystem for a certain kind of content. It's not Game of Thrones, it's not Mr. Rogers, but a certain kind of content is thriving. I know a lot of YouTubers who are professionals and they have small businesses that are really great and they've slapped a lot of money into the economy one way or the other. And a lot of that has gone to like creative professionals, and it's like a new thing to be, and it's weird. And I think that it's good. Like I think that they could have been done in a way that was worse. I think it could have been done in a way that was better. But I also think that like it's 2026 and like money is going to weird places. And I think I would like, honestly, for more people to follow our lead here. And if your content is a social good, you're not going to be a billionaire. So you might as well have like a good job. And so like maybe the thing you should do is like be a charity. Like if you're good at it, if you're actually delivering value, don't be a charity just so that you can like make stuff and it's not like getting any reach or anything. Like look around for people like me and support. And also, you don't have to like look at their Patreon and going, well, they're asking for $50 a month. I'll give them $50 a month. You can send them an email and be like, I'd like to give you $50,000. Get the money out of your bank account. I say this as a rich person who does this, and who just gave away, most of my net worth, right? Like that's what turning into a charity is. I could have sold this company for a lot of money and I didn't. And that's because like the impact matters more to me. And like that, like, and also for clarity, I'm also fine. Like I've sold another company and like things are good. So I don't think that I think that people should be careful about this if they, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
the idea that there's just a lot of free floating sort of like guilty patronage money.
Yeah.
You can launder into science content is very powerful. Great business model. Tell me like, how does this work? You're like, I'm going to,
Anyway,
call my brother.
If you have a bunch of money, here's my email address.
Yeah. No, I meant being a nonprofit. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to call John. We're going to be a nonprofit. I'm going to call the lawyer. They're going to send, did you e-sign it away? Did you have to, was there a ceremony? Did you light a torch? Like how does it work?
The crazy thing is that I did print out and sign the paperwork, but after I e-signed it, just because I wanted to have a copy.
Very good.
Well, but so I feel like I should every time a big thing happens like that, there should be some physical manifestation of it. It's, as you might imagine, it's really lawyery.
Yeah.
And one thing I know about lawyery stuff is I don't need to pay that much attention. So like, there was a lot of like, if we do it this way, then X. If we do it this way, then Y. If we do it this way, then Z. And it was like, which do you want X, Y, or Z? Rather than, do you want to do it this way, or this way? It was sort of like outcome based. And so and like we talked through it, and we had to find a lawyer who, turns out there's not a lot of people who do this. And also people often do it in ways that are about tax evasion. And so the figuring that out, to do it in a way where the IRS wouldn't be like, are you doing tax evasion? Was important, but, and slow. Like, I think it's been a year since we made this decision, but ultimately was about finding the right lawyers who knew how things worked and had done this before.
So you execute this decision. I got to ask, I ask everybody how they make decisions. What was your framework for saying we're going to be a nonprofit? What led you to this decision?
The big thing was, how is this going to affect staff? How is this going to affect content? How will this, how will we communicate this too? Will this make sense to people? And also, will they feel like they're losing something? So, at Complexly, we have a pretty robust profit sharing system. We've always said that if we're acquired, that will be then reflected in the acquisition, even though we don't have equity. But there would be like a sort of similar share that as our profit distribution that would go out. And so is that something that would feel like a loss to people? Is there a way to compensate people for that loss? Because in the same way that like the equity is no longer me and John's, in the same way we can never sell and people will never get like a big windfall because of that sale. And ultimately, it turned out that not very many people in the company were like sitting back waiting, thinking that was going to happen someday. It's not really a tech startup vibe because it's a media company. It's educational media in particular. And also, we had placed a lot of constraints on the content. So I think, when people look at us as an acquisition target, they were like, oh, you won't put any of it behind a paywall? What if we made new stuff? And they're like, no, not that either. And they're like, well, we don't really want you then. They wanted things, but like that was a real limitation on the value. So there's that. And then there was like, what are the different ways you can go here? And so we did, I'll be honest, like we took meetings with people who wanted to buy us just to like get the lay of the land. And, ultimately decided that was not a path we wanted to explore. And we also looked at like other weird ownership structures, whether like employee ownership was a thing that we could try. And it just seemed like there was too many signals that like actually the thing that this thing should be as a nonprofit organization.
Give me an example of some of those signals. Like,
it will make it. Yeah, it's not complicated. Like we kept offering people chances to give us money and they took them. Like even though they knew they were giving money to a for-profit corporation, they would be like, oh yeah, we want you to make Crash Course. We think it's really good. And we'd do a fundraiser for Crash Course. And, we keep that money internally connected to Crash Course. And we don't, John and I haven't taken profit distributions in over a decade, but that money doesn't end up coming to us, et cetera. And so we do these internal fundraisers and every year they kept getting bigger. So that's a big one. We also get money from granting organizations that usually only give to nonprofits, but they were giving to us because they were like, well, there's not really any other way to reach the kind of people that we want to reach. And so we're going to give money to you, even though we tend to not do that. And they were giving us signals that they'd give us more if we were a nonprofit.
The money's out there. The real theme of this is the money is out there. If only you can catch it. How many people is Complexity now?
I wish I knew exactly. So I have not been the CEO in a couple of years. I would have that exact number, but it's definitely over 70.
And how is that generally structured?
So we have recently done a restructure, actually, so previously we were show siloed, and so we'd have Crash Course would have its own graphics department and its own editorial department and its own production department, and now we have more. This is not entirely done yet, and may there's some silos will continue to exist. Maybe I'm not sure. That like now we have like an art department that does art across all of the shows. And I think that, the sort of flow between different areas of production is more open so that people aren't always on one show forever and ever, which can kind of be SciShow in particular can be, which is basically 7 days a week. I think that 5, 7, something like that, depending on the week, can be just kind of a grind, And it's not like we have seasons where we take 2 months off. Like we take 2 weeks off at Christmas. So that, getting a little more flow around. And then, we've got a chief development officer who is in charge of money, who oversees both brand deals and like grants, and also has a crowdfunding component to it. We've got marketing, a little tiny marketing department that also does merch. So like that's how big the marketing department is. It's like the marketing and product part of the company. And we've got art, and then we've got production, and then we've got editorial.
You were the CEO. I think the last time you were on the show, you were the CEO. Then you sort of like kicked yourself out of that chair and into more of a nebulous role of Hank Green.
Do you know the specifics of that story?
No, what's that?
I got kicked off of that by getting cancer, and then getting in cancer treatment. And I was like, somebody's going to have to be the CEO while I do this. So first, for like a couple of weeks, my brother took over, which is desperately not something he wanted to do, but he did a great job. And then eventually our COO moved into that position. And I was like very on the fence at first about whether I would come back in. And then I like saw how great Julie was doing. And also how much I enjoyed not doing the work. And
making your first deputy your boss is the greatest move of all time. That's what we did at The Verge. It's like, I can't recommend it enough. Everyone should do it at least once. You know what I mean? Like, go have that experience. It's like Italy. Make your best employee your boss. Like, those are the moves. They're right on the list. So Julie Smith is CEO now. When you become a nonprofit, is she still the CEO of the charity? How does that work?
Yeah, she is. I think that she stays on as the CEO. So sometimes a nonprofit has an executive director rather than a CEO. This is the same job. So yeah, she's still CEO.
Okay, and then
she reports to the board, and then we're making up a board, which is fun.
Who's going to be on your board?
It's very small right now. I've got a list of candidates. You want on?
Sure, let's do it. I don't know how to be on a board. I don't know that'd be very helpful. I'd be like, is YouTube evil? Like in every board meeting? But sure, I'll be helpful.
Yeah. Like the one guy in media who won't post YouTube videos. So it's me, and it's Julie, and it's Logan Smalley, who is at TED. He created TED Ed, which is a very popular TED-based YouTube channel where they take little TED Talks and they make them into really like usually animated, great, fun, informative pieces of content. And we've been friends with Logan forever. So we sort of like had him because we were like, we need 3. So and I had a feeling he would be an easy yes. And we're looking around. We're looking for people who understand media, who understand education, who understand leadership and management, and people who have contacts with rich people. So that's the vibe we're going for. And there's a lot of cool people.
How big do you want that board to be?
It will either be 5 or 7.
So when you like make this decision and you go to Julie and you're like, well, so you're the CEO of the company I own. I've just done a DocuSign. I no longer own any of it. Do you want to be like, how does that work? How involved was she in the mix?
Oh, I mean, for every piece of the conversation. Yeah. I think that Julie was more involved than John. I mean, Julie, she definitely was. But even in the decision-making process, ultimately, of course, John and I had the ability to pull on the cord, but it was kind of like John's hand had me and Julie's hand on it. He was like, whatever you guys think is the right thing to do.
Push the button, Grandpa.
Yeah. It's funny, like from the day that it made it, when it was definitely, so there was a moment where we weren't sure it was possible, like different lawyers telling us different things. And like there was a time when we thought it might cost a bunch of money, not just like we would have less net worth because we'd give away the value of the company, but like that it would be expensive, and not just like lawyer costs, but some kind of like tax consequence. I don't understand. So there was a moment like that but once it became clear that we could do it, the it just kept being more and more clear. And like to this day, like things will keep happening where I'm like, oh yeah, we should have done this. This was the right call.
There's a structure, and you're in it now, and it's a charity, and people can donate it to it. They can write off the donations that they make to Complexly. A lot of rich people are always in the market for tax write-offs of this kind. So you're just like in a different zone, right? Like
yeah. Though if you're in the donor advised fund world, which if you know kind of thing, we're not inside of the DAF companies yet. It takes a little while to update. So I've gotten a bunch of emails that like, why can't I give from my DAF? And I'm like, well, because we did this a month ago. I don't know. It takes a little while.
Right, but you're just in a class of people who can subsidize the company or give to the company, and that they have incentive to do it because they need to harvest losses to reduce their like. There's a whole thing you need to do, right?
I mean, it's interesting. There's kind of a sense, and I think that this is just how we work as people. But there's a sense that like, if rich people are giving away money, it's because they get some kind of benefit from it. And just for clarity, they don't get more money when they give money away. Like they just are able to give away more money because they're tax deductible. So like if I give away $50,000 and I'm paying a 30% tax rate, then I get to then like I otherwise would have been able to give, $38,000, or I can't do the math. And this way I can give more without that money going to the government, which is, you can question that, whether like we should like let people decide where money that would otherwise be going to the government goes. I actually know a billionaire who is like, I will not take tax deductions on my charitable contributions because I don't think that I should decide. This is crazy. He has plenty of money. But I don't think that I should decide whether or not my tax dollars go to the government. I think that the government should decide what to do with my tax dollars. And that's a fascinating way of looking at it, but that's not how much people.
Is this person European? Because I don't know.
No, he is American, and who he is, and like, yeah, and he's very American. He's like the most American of them, he likes America.
We're finally going to do like a viral TikTok clip, and it's just going to be people trying to guess who this person is.
Who's
John
the billionaire
Wayne,
that you've heard of,
who's so American that
who like actually likes not just who likes America and is like kind of in favor of government. Yeah,
very confusing. You're in the structure of the company can now accept this new income stream, right, from billionaires who want to give you the money. That takes you into a new category.
And for clarity, it's mostly people who have like $10 million. So
sure.
Like, yeah.
But it's still like it's a new door has opened, right? There's a new line of revenue for the company because you have the structure. You've created the incentives so that you're not just rapaciously chasing growth at all ends, right? You're not doing, is the earth flat? Like, which is a thing you can do on YouTube to make a lot of money. It's a thing you can do on every platform.
Honestly, I should probably do it. And I should make is the earth flat, and I should just be like, here's all the reasons why. I had an AI researcher tell me that they can't convince AI that the earth is flat. And I was like, that actually made me feel good.
Yeah, it's one of the first I've ever heard. We should shut it down now. No more data centers needed. Yeah. Actually, I want to come to AI because the reason I'm just laying this all out. You have a new source of revenue that changes your incentives. It changes who you are quote unquote working for, right? It's those people who want to see this work in the world. You still have this idea that you need to go get reach on the platforms because you want to have impact. And right next to that is like not only the army of Instagram teens who will work for free, but the enormous tidal wave of slop that these platforms are creating themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Like YouTube launched songs on YouTube Shorts yesterday. I watched a clip of my own interview with the founder and CEO of Ring, and YouTube just made a song about like surveilling dogs. Like I pushed a button and then there was a song about surveilling dogs, and then I could just publish it to YouTube. And I'm still emotionally processing this experience, right? Like I don't know what just happened to me. I don't know what kind of creator I am anymore. And I know that song about surveilling dogs is kind of hot. Like a lot of feelings all at once. How do you think about that, right? If you want to have all this impact and now you have a little bit of insulation, both from the incentives of capitalism and from the need to make money because there's a new donor class unlocked. How do you think about, okay, now we got to go fight the slot machine?
We have to compete with what exists. I find myself not that worried about it. Not about the slop. Like, I'm worried about AI. I'm worried about AI in a bunch of different ways. So, like, the biggest thing I'm worried about AI is that every time something big happens with AI, no one thought that it was going to happen. like everybody thought we were going to fall in love with AI, but nobody thought that it was going to like be so nice to you that you'd go crazy, you know? Like nobody predicted AI psychosis, like sycophancy-induced psychosis, and you know that keeps happening, and so I think that like we're focused on the wrong problems, and so the thing that I'm mostly worried about is that it's going to be bad in a way that we don't predict, which is exactly what the social internet did. So
yeah,
that won't be a surprise, but whatever it is will be surprising. So I'm worried about society. Here's what I think. Coming into it from the side. Why is slop? I think it's because it's easy to make. Like when I look at a website that was made with Lovable and it's like a good functional website, I don't think that's slop. And the reason is because there's a bunch of human decisions that went into it, and there's a bunch of hard work that went into it. They didn't go into like the lines of code, but they went into the design, into imagining the user interface, into imagining user behavior, into imagining like how to best get an idea into my head. This was a tool used to aid human creation, and then when I think about what slop is, it's like, oh, you know, you like typed a prompt in, and then you posted it. And now there's a video of a baby saving a cat from a bear. And if people think that's real, and you know, all you did is say, make a video of a baby saving a cat from a bear, make it look like it came from a Ring cam, and then you've got 10 million views on Reels. Like that's slop because it's low effort. And one of the craziest, so remember when OpenAI first launched its image generator and it was making these like, it was always using the same font and it was kind of yellow and the characters all looked the same. You became able to identify what those looked like 3 in. You know, like you saw 3 of them and you were like, now every time I see one of those forever, I will know what it looks like. I don't know if Digital God is coming, but until he does, I think that's going to be kind of true. I was just listening to like some AI guys who are like in the coding world talking about this on a podcast. And one of them was like, what do you think that is like a thing to be doing now if you're in tech? And they were like, well, you know, I guess like what we know is that like plumbers' jobs are safe. But then he started like inarticulately listing a bunch of things. And he was like, I don't really know what to call this. What he was describing was the liberal arts. He was like, you need to be able to like understand people and communicate with each other and like understand behavior and have like cultural, like know what's culturally resonant, know where we are right now in the history of art and write good copy. And I'm like, you're just like, so what you're saying is we should all go to liberal arts school. And like for the last 20 years of like, everybody should go STEM. That was a huge mistake. It was a huge mistake. And like what everyone should be doing, like, you know, like I happen to live in a town where there's like a university system that's mostly in Montana, 2 schools. And there's the liberal arts one, which has been suffering. It's the University of Montana where I am. And there's the more tech one, which is Montana State, which has been thriving. And I'm like, aha, we're going to get them. Those Bobcats are in trouble now.
It's time to be English majors once again.
So like there's a piece of me that thinks that like we get it. Like we get human labor. And when there are great products that are made with AI, they will be great products because a lot of attention was poured into them by humans. And it turns out like like figuring out how to structure your database wasn't that important. What was important was, you know, making something beautiful and useful. And that will still, like they still won't be able to do that. And I feel like they might, and I feel like that might be a somewhat stable circumstance. I'm not saying like 100 years from now, but like for a while, I think that will be a somewhat stable circumstance where we're actually making something good that, and this is the other thing, if it's cheap and easy to make, everyone will be making it and we will immediately rebel against it because that's how art works. You know, when stuff becomes commoditized, it's a commodity and we don't love it anymore.
All right, I'm going to complicate this in three distinct ways. Well, first, I'm going to agree with you. The number of CEOs who come on the show and they're like, yes, I'm a billionaire because I made a view of a publicly available database that you could look at on your phone. And I'm like, yeah, what are you going to do when the AI reads the database for you? Yeah. And they're like, good question. And that's almost every other episode of the show at this point, right? So I agree with you there. There's something about that where we're changing how that whole economy works. The part where everyone is going to just understand that they're looking at the AI slop and then like make another choice is complicated by your own thesis at the beginning of the show, which is that we have ceded control, right? I can't tell TikTok, don't show me the slop. I absolutely cannot tell Instagram. But every minute that someone spends watching the cat doing the electro breaker dance, and I've spent a lot of those minutes, my man, is a minute I'm not watching you.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is zero sum. And it's hard to institute that choice.
I don't think that there will be none of it. I think that it will be a kind of content, and I think that it will not be the kind of content that people will want to watch. They will watch it sometimes in the same way we watch dash cam videos and car accidents. You know, like we'll watch it, and we'll like, and sometimes we won't. You know, maybe most of the time we won't even know that we're watching AI. And in particular, I think that this will happen on short form swipeable platforms.
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to like a video that's like an AI voice reading an AI script with AI like slow zoom photos on top of it, I think that you have to be like a little brain rotted to watch two of those, you know? You watch one of them and you're like, what I actually like want somebody with a perspective who's making something with like an understanding of what compels me.
Have you seen the videos where like Moses is a vlogger crossing the Red Sea and he's like, what's up, fam? Like that stuff is not going to go away. Yeah. Right? They're just going to make more and more of it.
Yeah. Well,
and that's slop in its way. It's like, it is a different
it's slop in its way, but
slop.
There is a vibe there that is also like, oh, somebody had a clever idea. And so like, this is what I think. I think that we will actually be, as humans, uniquely good at being able to tell when somebody had like a good idea, like, and use a tool to create a thing that otherwise wouldn't be possible. I do hold out this hope that what is happening right now is not dissimilar from people deciding that they couldn't enjoy newspapers that lied to them anymore. And they sought out structures, and companies thrived building structures that promised a better product. And I think that a very select few of like old legacy institutions will make it through that transition. I think of maybe one, I think maybe five. And I think that like, you know, newer organizations will build up in their place and figure out how to make that promise in a way that like people will believe.
I mean, there's a reason I am always yapping about our ethics policy. I literally think the kids don't know that we make things according to a process.
Oh, and no, you are correct.
Right. And like the process is actually the thing that you buy from us.
But even
the
even
outcome
people,
of the process is actually kind of secondary.
Yeah. I think even people who like make content that in that space don't understand what journalism is. Some of these like TikTok journalist type people, they don't understand what journalism is. They think that like news comes from the AP and that's where it comes from. And, it's
an ever-present fire hose.
Yes, and that like there's like a news plug that the AP plugs into, and then it delivers them the news, and then people say the news.
Let me. I said it was going to be a third way that I would complicate this for you. The third way that I think all this gets complicated is, I watched my own 7-year-old daughter argue with Google on our Google Home Hub about space. Mm-hmm. And I think that she wants to prove to Google, to Gemini, that she knows more about space than it does. And I'm like, this is the best use of AI that has ever existed. Like, this is what I want, right? Like, she's in a fight with a machine that will never get tired. It's the Terminator for space facts. And she's motivated to prove to it that she knows more about space. And like, sometimes she learns things about space, sometimes she does. Like, who knows what's happening? But it's like a totally different approach to learning. There are other companies that are chasing that approach. Actually, when you hosted the show, you had Sal Khan from Khan Academy on the show. This is their big bet. They've also organized a nonprofit, but this is their big bet on a new way of meeting people where they are. that's the other thing that's going to take time away from these platforms, right? How do you think about that? Like, the platform shift that so many CEOs come on the show is, on the one hand, it looks like maybe no one's ever going to write software again, right? You're just going to say to a computer, it's going to write its own code, and Cloud Code's going to do whatever. On the other hand, it's maybe we won't have screens at all, and Johnny Ive is going to make a shoe, and you just like talk to your shoes all day. It's like whatever he's going to do. And
yeah, my hot take is that we're going to be using phones in 500 years.
Okay. And I think people are going to watch videos. Like, I think the reason you have phones in 500 years is people like looking at stuff on screens.
Yeah.
As proven out.
Yeah.
But next to this is this other idea, right? You're just going to ask questions into the ether, and digital God will provide you the answers. And that seems far away from, we will engage your curiosity. We will write a narrative in a video that tells you a story about a fact that like piques you to learn more, right? How do you think about that dynamic?
I think that they're complementary. There will be people in the pedagogy space who will maybe yell at me for this take, but I think that you can learn from these things, and I think that like following, like a person following their curiosity, like your daughter arguing with Gemini, is a good use case. It's like, and I think that probably be interesting to see how it goes, but probably the Conmigo tool will be able to do its job and help understand what students are getting wrong, and be, something of a distributed tutor that, like, what we know is that like one-on-one tutoring works really well. Like a thing that actually understands what you're getting and what you're not getting is valuable, and it's hard to I choked on this as I said it, hard to scale. Because of course, what is education but scaling that very thing? What is like the school but scaling that thing? And so like in the same way that I think that we have to figure out how all of these things plug into each other, and also like new things. Like textbooks used to be a technology. They are a technology, but they used to be a brand spanking new, like hot off the presses, nobody had ever seen it technology. And teachers were scared that textbooks were going to take away their jobs, because why would you need a teacher if you had the book that has all the information in it? I think that we are going to be in a similar situation. Will Conmigo be able to like provide the human connection? I hope not. The human connection of motivation, of care, of connection that a human teacher does? No, I don't think that it will, and I don't think that it should. Will Conmigo be able to like say like, oh, I see you, I see how you misunderstood like the shape of this triangle or whatever. I don't know how math teaching works. Maybe, yeah, and like fine. And also, will there be a place for a video tool and a textbook and some vibe coded weird thing that helps you like, figure out how GDP is affected by the Gini index? Like, sure, all of that. I think that we're always going to be creating new tools, and so the question, it really is like how do we make this transition in a way that is minimally harmful? Because we won't know what we're doing for a while. And I think that so far, if we're talking about AI's impact on pedagogy, we've not been doing a good job of that, because it's been, Sam Altman made it a cheating bot, and thought to himself, well, YouTube got successful by uploading Family Guy clips, and that was illegal, and we're going to get our market share by just doing absolutely anything. It's just with no thought whatsoever.
The internet has been a revolution in education, right? More people have more access to more information than ever before.
Yeah.
You were able to start a company.
And there's a lot of
brother.
kinds of information, it turns out.
There's an awful lot of kinds of information out there. But it made a career for you. It made a career for me. It made a career for lots of people who traffic in good information. Mm-hmm. Also, it made careers for a lot of people to just tell horrible lies. Horrible lies that have started measles epidemics, right? Like in our country. In this next turn, both for, Complexity is a company that's a nonprofit now that has to compete against that. And as you see, okay, there's a platform shift. There's new ways to access information. There's new ways kids are going to learn. How do you reduce the harm? It doesn't seem like the industry knows. It doesn't seem like our regulators know. You've been in it, right? You, from the very beginning, YouTube grant to start the thing. You've seen all the mistakes. How would you navigate this turn to make sure what people are getting is actually good educational information?
I don't think I can give you guidance there in terms of what we actually need to do. And I think if I could, then I would be like running for president.
I think a lot of people would vote for you, Hank. I got to ask you. It's a compelling personal story.
But here's what I will say. I won't give you what we should do, but I'll give you like the way that I think about it. Everything in a world of infinite content, everything is about how easy something is to pay attention to. So how well it captures and holds attention. That's it. That's everything. And so with any way that we can, both in our own heads when we're making our own decisions, and also when we're making things or when we're talking to people about how they consume stuff, anything we can do to be like, here are the good things that when you feel like those strings are being tugged on, you should go in that direction. And they are like curiosity and like human interest and cute stuff and like the good ones. And we can recognize them as being pro-social, and which one are the anti-social ones where it's like, you feel superior to someone else. You feel like a victim. You feel like you're being manipulated by nefarious things. You're being told that something that everybody thinks is good is actually bad. And like, you thought vaccines were like one of the most amazing technologies, that a physical manifestation of like the love that we have for each other as a species. No, actually, the government's poisoning your children. Those are antisocial, and they are outrage bait, and they are, like, can we program these platforms to distinguish between those things? I don't know if we can, because then instead, like, it's wild. We're like fine saying, as long as you're doing everything with the sole goal of making the most amount of money possible, that's fine. But the moment you're saying, like, I don't like to post, like, I'd like to promote stuff that's about like pro-social behavior and not antisocial behavior, it's like, well, you got your finger on this scale, buddy. Now you're trying to be God. And it's like, no, they are God. We did it. We live in the AI age. We are all controlled by AI all of the time already. It's been that way for 10 years. This is it. Your brain has been taken over by recommendation algorithms that decide what you see and what you pay attention to is what just like builds your view of the world. It builds your values. It builds what you think about everything. And we've plugged our brains into a system that is all about attention and holding on to attention. And that's like the number one thing I'll say. Everything is about attention. Everything is about salience. Everything is about how easy it is to get somebody to pay attention to something. So that's the actual leverage point. Everything else is like just arguing in the most salient way possible. Like it's like acting out activism in a way that is purely about like whether or not we're getting attention, and not at all about whether or not you're changing anything. And then the other thing I'll say is that like it's all stories. Everything is stories. We're made of stories. Everything is storytelling. And those two ideas are very closely tied to each other. So what does that mean? Like how do we use that knowledge to do better? I don't know, but I'm trying.
I'd just say that,
and that's when I say I'm the chief strategy officer, that's what I mean.
I was going to say, I don't know that I've ever met the chairman of the board of a nonprofit educational foundation that's ever talked quite the way that you talk.
Yeah, they all talk exactly like
but I'm glad it's getting shaken up. It's going to be great. Hank, as always, incredible pleasure talking to you about all this stuff. I wish you well. I'm excited for this next turn. I feel like you're able to let loose in a different way now that you're a nonprofit. I can feel that it's different.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should let loose a little less.
No. Come back on Decoder. Maybe have a couple drinks next time.
So the PR people aren't in the room, unfortunately. So we'll see what they thought about this one.
What should people be looking out for? What's the next turn besides you just asking rich people for money? Is there something going to change that you can see?
At Complexly?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that we've got a lot of leverage points that we would like to use. One of the things that we'd really like to do And I don't know how this is shaped yet. We have a thing called we have a SciShow residency where we bring in like a science communicator who's up and coming or doing interesting things, and we have them sort of like experience our newsroom or our editorial room anyway, and write some scripts and get through our fact checking process, see how it all works, and then they come to Missoula and they record some episodes. We're going to want to do that more, like that particular program more, but we also want to do more stuff like that. We just like to foster that growth inside of the science communication and education space, so that so that we can hopefully be an engine for making more and more people who are good at both accurately representing reality and capturing attention, which is that's the fight.
All right. Well, we'll have to have you back soon to check in on how things are going, and so that you can continue your slow burn coup of taking over my show.
Someday.
Seems happening. Hank, this has been great. Thank you so much for being on.
Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to thank Hank Green for taking time to join Decoder, and thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to let us know what you thought about this episode, or really anything else at all, drop us a line. You can email us at decoder@theverge.com. We really do read all the emails, or you can hit me up directly on Threads or Blue Sky. If you like Decoder, please share it with your friends and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Decoder is a production of The Verge and part of the Vox Media Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.